Discover the incredible moment that transformed a billionaire's heart. One life-changing encounter. In the heart of Maplewood, a simple town bursting with community spirit, Sarah Jensen stood in front of a bustling crowd, her heart pounding like the bass of a drum. The annual Harvest Festival was in full swing, adorned with colorful banners that flapped cheerily in the crisp autumn breeze. But beneath the cheerful atmosphere lay a dark undercurrent. The community center, the lifeblood of town gatherings, faced foreclosure. Sarah, a single mother of two, was determined to rally her neighbors together and save it. As she spoke, her words poured out like honey, rich and warm, each phrase igniting hope in the hearts of her listeners. "Together, we can make a difference," she proclaimed, her voice rising above the mingled sounds of laughter and music. "This place is our home, it's where our children laugh, where memories are born." Tears glistened in her eyes, and she wiped them away with the back of her hand. Each speech she made was a piece of her heart laid bare, fighting for a place that had given her family moments of joy in times of struggle. Meanwhile, Richard Trent, an enigmatic billionaire, watched from the sidelines. Fresh from the busy streets of New York City, he had returned to Maplewood seeking solace. The familiar scent of apple cider and the laughter of children seemed to draw him in, yet he felt like a ghost, drifting through the living tapestry of his past. The disconnection between his wealth and the warmth of the town felt stark. He was a spectator in a world he used to belong to, and yet, for the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him as he watched Sarah's fierce determination. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival's energy escalated, a storm of despair lurked close by. Sarah's determined words ignited the townsfolk, who gathered closer, their faces a mix of hope and desperation. Richard felt an undeniable pull. He stepped closer, captivated by the strength of a woman who fought for her community with everything she had. Just then, a sudden clap of thunder interrupted the festivities, dark clouds gathering ominously overhead. It felt like the town's spirit itself was being tested. Richard's heart raced. He could not ignore the growing feelings within him, a longing to connect with something real, something lost. As he slipped through the crowd, intent on offering his help, a hand grabbed his arm. It was Sarah, and in that instant, their eyes locked. Recognition flashed. They were family, long separated by time and circumstance, unknown cousins. The truth hit Richard harder than the rain that began to pour. How could he walk away now? As Sarah spoke passionately about family and community, Richard grappled with the truth of his own life and the ties he had neglected. Her voice was a lifeline, pulling him back to a part of himself he had buried under layers of corporate gloss and loneliness. As he stood there, torn between wealth and love, his heart raced not because of the storm but because he finally felt something he could no longer ignore: what it meant to belong. Would he choose the family he had forgotten or slip back into the shadows of his isolated, affluent world? Sarah's heartfelt plea felt like a compass directing him home, and as the festival swirled around them, he realized he stood at a crossroads, facing an uncertain but hopeful future. Richard's heart pounded, the downpour around them echoing the tumult within. He took a deep breath, allowing the rain to wash over him, feeling alive and raw. Sarah's eyes were wide with surprise and cautious hope. Did she sense the shift in him? I can help," he said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. Just as the thunder rolled again, casting a shadow over the crowd, he stepped forward, feeling the weight of his decision. The townsfolk paused, their murmurs trailing off into the wind. All eyes turned to him, the once spectator now at the forefront of attention. A ripple of uncertainty crossed Sarah's face, but then a flicker of trust ignited in her gaze. "You want to help?" she asked, her voice more incredulous than accusatory. Absolutely. I can donate, he continued, his tone firm. I want to be part of this. He gestured towards the community center, the festival. I want to help save our home. A low murmur of disbelief stirred among the townsfolk, followed by a wave of shock. People shifted in the rain, grappling with the convergence of their once imaginary billionaire and the reality of his offer. Sarah seemed to process his words deeply. But why now? She questioned softly, shaking off her surprise. Why us? Richard's throat tightened. How could he explain that in her impassioned plea, he found what he'd been missing for years? The connection to family, to purpose, to something bigger than himself. Because I've been thinking about my past. About family I abandoned, and I want to be part of a future. As he spoke, the rain became a soft murmur. The crowd fell silent again, captivated by the truth behind the words. I grew up here. I left, but I see now. He hesitated, emotions coursing through him like the rain slicking the ground. I need this too, Sarah. I need this home. Sarah's expression shifted, an understanding blooming in her eyes. The path forward felt fraught yet illuminated, shadows mingling with rays of possibility. So, you'll help gather support, then? He nodded. I can call in favors, reach out to sponsors. Maybe even organize a fundraiser. Suddenly, from the back of the crowd, a voice lifted high, let us do this then. We stand together. An older woman stepped out, her eyes sparkling with determination. Together, we'll save our home. Cheers broke out, infecting the crowd like wildfire. Laughter mixed with the reviving rain, and together they began brainstorming ideas, waving signs, and drawing plans as if the storm itself had washed away doubt. Richard surrendered to the moment, smiling wide. He felt a sense of belonging. No, belonging wasn't right. It was more than that. He was wanted, needed even. This was a chance to fill the void that had festered for too long. Sarah turned to him, laughter dancing in her eyes. So, what's next, partner? Let us make this happen. He declared, feeling the pulse of hope surge through them all. The storm above began to dissipate, revealing a horizon painted with the hues of twilight, ushering in an unexpected beginning. But even as excitement filled the air, a small voice within Richard said, what will happen if they discover your greatest secret? The very fabric of his newfound connection was tinged with the fear of being exposed. Could he keep his past hidden as they worked to save the heart of Maplewood? Would the truth tear apart the family he was just beginning to know? As plans unfolded, Richard felt a fragility in his heart, one that hinted at both the thrill of new beginnings and the weight of hidden truths. Would he dare to embrace the love so close, or would fear drive him away? The rain finally slowed to a gentle sprinkle, the clouds parting just enough to let through a tentative ray of sunlight. Richard felt the warmth seep into his skin, chasing away the chill that had settled deep within him. Around him, the townsfolk were buzzing with ideas, their faces aglow with renewed determination. He watched as Sarah delved into planning sessions and discussions, her passion infectious, her spirit a sturdy anchor to which they all gravitated. It wasn't just about the fundraiser, it was about nurturing a community that had been neglected for too long. Richard wanted to stay close to her, to learn from her, to feel the strength that she exuded. He took a step forward, synchronizing his thoughts with the commotion around him. We need a theme for the fundraiser, he called, his voice steady and confident. Yes. A young man shouted from the back. How about a homecoming festival? Focus on reconnecting with the past. The crowd murmured in agreement, buoyed by the shared idea. Richard felt adrenaline push up his spine. What if we included stories? Memory walls, photos, the whole bit. Let everyone share what Maplewood means to them, he added. The suggestion caught fire, the crowd erupting in enthusiasm. Sarah's eyes sparkled once more as she locked onto Richard's. That's perfect. We can create something tangible for everyone to hold on to. It'll help us remember why we fight to save this place. As ideas flowed like the remnants of the rain, Richard found himself swept up in the momentum. Other townsfolk approached him, eager to contribute and brainstorm. They exchanged stories, rekindling connections and forging new ones. He felt like an integral part of this movement. The ghost of his past began to fade into the background. But in the midst of this vitality, a nagging thought clawed at him. How long could he hide his truth? Each cheerful laugh around him echoed louder, drowning out the warnings that sought to bubble to the surface. And every time he thought of revealing his past, his heart constricted with fear. Later, as the sunset painted the sky with brushes of orange and pink, Richard found himself separated from the group. He leaned against the cool brick of the old community center, breathing in the nostalgia. An emotional weight hung above him, like storm clouds preparing to unleash their fury. He closed his eyes, trying to summon the courage to share his story, to open up to Sarah and the others. But what if they turned away? What if they no longer saw him as one of them, just a shadow flickering across their bright future? Hey, Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, drawing him back to reality. She looked concerned, yet determined, her hair slightly tousled from the rain and wind. You okay? You were really into it back there. But now she trailed off, her eyes searching his for an answer. Richard hesitated. Did she sense the weight he carried? Did she know how close he was to unraveling? Yeah, just thinking, he finally replied, his voice barely above a whisper. She stepped closer, crossing her arms as if to shield him from the doubts pressing in on him. Thinking about what? Before he could stop himself, he blurted out, about how I've been keeping a part of myself hidden. And I'm scared. The admission hung in the air, heavy with emotion. The laughter and plans faded, replaced by an intensity that crackled between them. Sarah reached out, her hand gently resting on his arm. Whatever it is, Richard, you don't have to carry that alone. Not anymore. As she spoke, a flicker of hope ignited in him, battling the shadows in his heart. Could he truly let her in? Would it strengthen the bonds forming, or would it shatter everything they had built together? The thought loomed like a storm front, ready to break loose. Would he tell her the truth before they ventured down this path together? Or would his secret risk losing everything he was just beginning to find? Richard felt a knot in his stomach, twisting tighter as he searched Sarah's eyes. In the glow of the fading light, her expression radiated warmth and compassion that almost disarmed him. But as he opened his mouth to speak, words failed him, tangled in fear. He started, but the words dissipated into silence. She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. Take your time. I'm here. You can trust me. The tension in the air crackled like static electricity. Richard's heart raced. The town around them dimmed into background noise as everything else faded away. Just them. Just this moment. Taking a deep breath, he gathered his courage, convinced he had to start somewhere. When I came back to Maplewood, it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because I had nowhere else to go. His voice trembled, but he pressed on, the truth pushing its way out. I lost my job a couple of years ago. Things spiraled after that. A flicker of surprise crossed Sarah's face, quickly replaced by empathy. I had no idea. I'm really sorry, Richard. He nodded, the weight of his confession momentarily lifting but still heavy in the air between them. I was living in a different town, everything went wrong. I turned to the wrong crowd, made mistakes that nearly broke me. I didn't know how to fix my life. Sarah leaned closer, her hands sliding to his back, providing a comforting presence. But you came back. You're trying to rebuild. Yeah, I don't know how to be part of this community again. Part of their lives, he whispered, pain lacing his words. What if they can't look past what I've done? Everyone has a past, Richard. Don't let your mistakes define you. Her voice was steady, each word like a balm healing old wounds. Maybe it's not just my past. It's who I am now, who I'm becoming. I'm scared that once they know, I won't be worthy of their trust. She shook her head, a small smile breaking through. You're worthy just as you are. Those who matter will see that. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. He held her gaze, vulnerability flooding through him. I want to help. I want to be a part of something again, but stop ting yourself. You're here now. This is your chance, Sarah insisted, her grip tightening on his arm as if to ground him. You're not the only one with a story. I've had my share of struggles too. We can support each other, Richard. We can be the difference. As her words settled, a weight began to lift, the storm clouds receding. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was hope. Perhaps he could share the burden with someone who truly understood. Okay, Richard breathed, letting out a shaky laugh as relief washed over him. I'll try. She smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and filled the space between them with light. That's all I ask. They stood together beside the fading shadows, hearts steadying as a fragile bond began to strengthen. But just when it felt like the storm inside him was easing, a figure emerged from the darkness, interrupting their moment. Richard? The voice sliced through the air, chilling him instantly. It was a voice from the past he didn't expect to hear again, one that could unravel everything. Richard's breath hitched as he turned, his heart racing anew. What would this person reveal? Would it threaten everything he had just dared to hope for? The figure stepped into the dim light, and Richard's heart pounded wildly in his chest. He held his breath, trying to reconcile the face before him with the memories that plagued him. It was Kevin, an old friend turned adversary. They had shared dreams, laughter, and then in the chaos that had ensued after Richard's fall nothing but bitterness. Richard, Kevin said, his tone a mixture of surprise and something darker. I didn't expect to see you back here. Richard's mind raced. Would this be a confrontation? Would Kevin expose and amplify the very truths he was struggling to accept? What are you doing here? Richard asked, trying to mask the anxiety trembling in his voice. Kevin shrugged, a smirk creeping onto his lips. Just passing through. I got wind you were back in town. Figured I'd check in on the local spectacle. Richard clenched his jaw, irritation mingling with the fear curling in his stomach. He turned away, trying to refocus on Sarah, seeking the calm brought by her presence. Don't ignore me, Kevin continued, stepping closer. Things aren't always what they seem, are they? Richard felt the warmth of Sarah's hand tighten on his arm. What do you want, Kevin? She spoke, her voice steady but laced with caution. I want him to remember, Kevin replied, fixing his gaze on Richard. What you did to this town, what you let happen. You think just because you're here, you can change that narrative? Richard's throat tightened. This was the moment he dreaded, the unraveling of every bit of courage he had summoned. I'm not that person anymore, he forced out, looking at Sarah for reassurance. Her eyes shone with encouragement, and he took a deep breath. I'm trying to rebuild. I'm here to make things right. Make things right? Kevin laughed, the sound jagged and cold. You think they'll just welcome you back with open arms? You think Sarah will save you? Richard felt a flash of anger. He had fought too hard to let Kevin diminish his journey. You don't know anything about us. This is between me and my community. Kevin's face hardened, and for a brief moment, the mask slipped. They'll never let you be part of their lives again. You're a ghost in your own graveyard. You don't belong here. At that moment, Richard felt as though the ground beneath him was giving way. Doubts he had fought hard against surged back, threatening to pull him under. He looked at Sarah, and the steady comfort in her eyes steadied his resolve. He wouldn't fall apart now. He refused. Maybe I don't know how it'll end, Richard said, his voice stronger. But I'm here to try. People make mistakes. You can't keep holding my past against me forever. Kevin's smile turned sardonic, and he shook his head. We'll see how long that lasts. With one last look, Kevin turned and melted back into the shadows. The tension in the air shifted, leaving silence behind. Richard felt the echo of fear fading as Sarah turned to him, her expression full of resolve. That's your past, Richard. It doesn't own you anymore, she stated, the conviction in her voice like a lifeline. Maybe you're right, he sighed, though doubt still hung heavy in the air. But I can't shake the worry. What if he isn't the only one who thinks that way? Then prove them wrong, Sarah encouraged, her eyes brightening with warmth. Start with one small step at a time. You showed up. That says a lot already. Richard nodded slowly, feeling a balance teetering between hope and apprehension. The confrontation had sparked something inside him, igniting a flicker of determination. I'll try, he said again, but this time with more conviction. Let us take that step together, Sarah suggested, her hand tightening around his. But just as they both began to envision a future beyond the shadows, Richard's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down, and his heart dropped. The name flashing on the screen tugged at something buried deep inside him, a call that could rewrite everything he thought he knew. Sarah, His voice betrayed his uncertainty as he looked back at her, the landscape of the future shifting once more. Are you going to answer? She asked, concern shadowing her beautiful features. With one shaky breath, Richard made a choice. Would he let the past dictate his future or answer the call that might hold answers he wasn't ready to face? Richard's hand hovered over the screen, his heart racing. Part of him wanted to ignore the call, to let the past stay buried. But another part, a part ignited by Sarah's unwavering support, knew he had to confront whatever was waiting for him on the other end. Just do it, Sarah urged softly. Her voice was the anchor he needed. He swallowed hard and pressed the green button. Hello? The voice on the other end was familiar yet distant. Richard? It's Claire. Immediately, a rush of memories flooded back, cheers at summer barbecues, quieter moments spent talking about dreams long forgotten. Claire had been a close ally in his earlier days, before everything had fallen apart. Claire, he managed, unsure of how to proceed. I didn't expect to hear from you. I know. I heard you were back. There's something we need to discuss. Her tone shifted, growing serious. Richard's chest tightened. It's about what happened, and how we can move forward. Richard shot a glance at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. I'm listening. Silence hung heavy for a moment before Claire spoke again, her voice fragile yet firm. The town hasn't forgotten what you did, Richard, nor will they easily accept you. But there's a chance, if you're willing. We need leaders, not just talkers. Leaders? Richard echoed, confusion blending with hope. What do you mean? There's a community meeting tomorrow night, at the old center. I'm gathering people to discuss the way forward, and they need to hear from you. They need to know you're serious about making amends. Richard took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through him. What if they don't want to hear? They won't if you don't show, Claire declared, urgency rising in her voice. But if you do, if you stand up, it may change everything. It may change them. Richard's mind raced. The doubts swirled with flickers of optimism, battling for dominance. The community meeting was his opportunity, a way to potentially rewrite his narrative if only he had the courage to take that step. Okay, I'll be there, Richard said finally, his voice steadier than he felt. That's all I needed to hear, Claire said, relief washing through her voice. I'll see you tomorrow. As the call ended, Richard felt the heaviness lift, replaced by a spark of hope. What did she say? Sarah asked, eyes bright with anticipation. He met her gaze, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety swirl within him. There's a meeting tomorrow. I'm going to speak to everyone. This might be my chance to show them I'm not a ghost. I can't run away. That's incredible, Richard. Her joy radiated into him, fueling the determination that had somehow ignited during the confrontation with Kevin. I know it's a long shot, he said, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. There's so much I have to prove, to them, and to myself. You will. Because you're choosing to be brave, Sarah encouraged, a smile breaking through her worry. And you're not doing it alone. He felt a warmth spread through him as he held her gaze. But just then, a shadow passed over the window, a reminder of the lingering doubts, Kevin's words drumming in his mind. Richard stood at a crossroads, committing to a fresh start but haunted by the specter of his past. What if it's worse than before? He whispered, crushed by the weight of uncertainty. Then we'll face it together, Sarah replied calmly. But this is your moment, Richard. Make it count. Her words resonated deep within him, echoing through every corner of his heart. He could already envision the faces in the crowd tomorrow night, some skeptical, some angry, but all of them watching. His own community, a tapestry woven from years of shared history. Richard took a deep breath, a flicker of resolve igniting within. He would confront them. But as he thought of the challenge ahead, one question lingered in his mind: would courage truly be enough to mend what had been broken? Let us get some rest, he said finally, knowing tomorrow could shift everything. As they turned to leave, he felt the undercurrent of anxiety thrumming beneath the surface. The shadows still loomed. But he was ready to step into the light. Tomorrow held the promise of change, but would he be able to seize it? Richard awoke to the soft light filtering through the curtains, each ray bringing a mix of hope and dread. Today was the day. He glanced at the clock. It was later than he meant to sleep. Anxiety knotted his stomach. You okay? Sarah's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She was sitting at the table, sipping coffee, her eyes scanning him expectantly. I don't know if I'm ready for this, he confessed, rubbing the back of his neck. Sarah set her mug down and walked over. You are. You've been preparing for this moment for a long time. Just remember, these people were part of your life once. They need to see the real you, the one that wants to make things right. Richard nodded, trying to muster strength. He was grateful for Sarah's faith in him, but doubt lingered like a shadow. The hours slipped by in a blur of preparations. He picked out clothes that felt too formal yet too casual at the same time. He practiced his words, muttering phrases under his breath, but they felt inadequate, floating half-formed in his mind. He wanted to convey remorse, but also a genuine desire to rebuild trust. As evening approached, Richard felt his heart start to race again. The community center loomed ahead, a familiar yet intimidating silhouette against the colorful sunset. He could see clusters of people milling about, some faces he recognized from old family photos, friends, neighbors, even a few who had been pivotal in his early years. Just breathe, Sarah said as they parked. She placed her hand over his on the steering wheel, grounding him. He nodded, taking a deep breath. Cobwebs of anxiety still danced in his mind. What if this doesn't go the way I hope? His voice cracked slightly as fear rippled through him. Then you face it, she responded, her tone unwavering. You'll show them you're not backing down, no matter what. You're already braver than you know. With renewed resolve, Richard stepped out of the car. Each step felt heavier as he approached the entrance, but he couldn't turn back now. As he entered, warmth washed over him, contrasting sharply with the cold prickles of doubt still shadowing his thoughts. The room was filled with familiar faces, and he felt their eyes land on him, some filled with curiosity, others with distrust. It took everything he had not to turn and leave. But then he heard Claire's voice through the thrumming noise, calling attention to the gathering. Everyone, I appreciate you all for coming tonight. We have a chance to carve a new path forward as a community," she said, her voice steady and commanding. Richard felt gratitude swell in his chest. Claire was his ally, and in this moment, she was their bridge. "Now, Richard has something he wants to share." Gasps filled the room, and he could feel the tension increase. All eyes turned towards him, expectant, skeptical, and some even angry. Richard's heart thundered as he stood, each heartbeat echoing his fears. Staring at the crowd, he felt the weight of their collective history, the laughter, shared dinners, and the broken trust that now hung in the air like a thick fog. Taking a deep breath, he began. "Thank you all for being here. I know I hurt you. I hurt this town, my home. I'm here to own that and to tell you I'm deeply sorry." He watched their faces intently, trying to read their reactions. Some wore crossed arms, hardened expressions, while others seemed to soften, curiosity edging out the anger. Richard continued, words pouring from the depths of his heart, each sentence fueled by sorrow and hope. "I've made mistakes, but I want to change. I want to be part of this community again. I'm committed to making amends and proving to you that I can be the person you need me to be." As he spoke, he felt a new energy building within him, the fire of resolve he thought long extinguished. He looked out at the crowd, waiting for a response, a glimmer of hope in his chest as he recognized a few faces starting to nod. But just then, a voice broke through the buzz. "And why should we believe you now?" It was Kevin, his tone challenging and cutting. The crowd shifted. Slightly, more restless now. Richard's heart sank again, the burden of his past weighing heavy. But he could feel Sarah's reassuring presence beside him, and Claire's nod across the room gave him the courage to face his accuser. As he opened his mouth to respond, the noise quieted, all eyes now on him. "I know my past looms over me like a shadow," he began, voice steady and firm. "But I'm here to step into the light, not just for me, but for all of us." The room was tense, filled with uncertainty, but could he truly reach them? Would it be enough? Is this the moment where I finally take back my life? He thought, every breath feeling like it could change everything in ways he couldn't yet foresee. And then it hit him in a crowd of doubt, his heart surged with purpose. But what would Kevin say next? Would Richard withstand the test of this moment? Richard took a second to gather himself, sweat beading at his brow as he faced Kevin and the crowd. The challenge lingering in the air felt electric. "I get it, Kevin. I wouldn't believe me either if I were in your shoes," he admitted, letting his vulnerability seep through the walls he had built around himself. "But believe me when I say I'm not the same person I was. I don't want to live in shadows any longer." The crowd was silent, the only sounds were the soft rustle of clothing and the distant hum of conversation from adjacent rooms. Richard's pulse raced, each heartbeat urging him to dig deeper. "I can't change the past, but I can work to create a better future for myself and for all of you." A murmur rippled through the audience. Claire shot him an encouraging smile, and though it was small, it felt like a lifeline. Taking another breath, he pressed on. "I've gone through some tough times, but I've also learned a lot. I had to face the truth about what I did and how it hurt all of us." Kevin's eyebrows knitted together, and Richard could see the battle beneath the surface. Doubt colliding with curiosity. "What makes you so different now?" He challenged again, voice stronger, searching for a crack in Richard's sincerity. "Because I want to do the hard work. I know now that actions speak louder than words." Richard's voice rang clear, bouncing off the walls of the center. "I owe it to you, my friends, to rebuild what I've broken. It won't be easy, but I'm committed no matter how long it takes." "Prove it." Someone shouted from the back, and there was an audible gasp that fluttered through the group. The challenge was loud and desperate, underscoring the tension. "Yes. Show us." Another voice chimed in, echoing the sentiment. Richard felt the surge of collective uncertainty, a mix of instinctive avoidance and a glimmer of hope. Richard looked around, taking a deep breath. I promise, I won't expect forgiveness without earning it. I want to be right here, in this community where I belong. It starts tonight. The energy shifted, and he could sense the crowd leaning in, curiosity creeping over their expressions. Even Kevin's jaw seemed to unclench slightly, just a bit more open to the possibilities. Richard's heart beat louder with each word he spoke. Let us work together. Please, if you're willing, I'm asking for a chance to show you who I can be. The murmuring grew, voices dancing between hope and skepticism, but for the first time that evening, he saw a few nods, slow and tentative, as if the air were changing around him. Could it be? Why should we even try? Kevin interjected again, and Richard's heart skipped a beat. This was at the pivotal moment that could either make or break everything he had just poured out. Richard clenched his fists at his sides, channeling the energy, healing the wounds of the past. Because we all deserve a second chance, he said, locking eyes with Kevin, who had always been a fierce critic. Together, we can be stronger, rebuilding what was lost, learning from each other's mistakes. The room fell silent again, but this time it felt different, like a fragile breath held in anticipation. Just then, behind Kevin, someone lifted their hand. If you really want to make things right, Richard, start here. Start now by volunteering in the community. The voice was assertive, yet hopeful. Richard recognized it as Jenna, someone he'd known since childhood. A spark ignited within him. Absolutely. I'll volunteer, I'll do anything. I want to lead community projects, help the kids, whatever it takes. The tension shifted again, more slowly this time, the collective curiosity starting to lift. Richard could feel the pulse of possibility growing stronger. But just as he thought the tide might be turning, Kevin shook his head, confusion in his eyes. Do you truly mean it? Jumping in, Richard nodded fervently, desperate to show his sincerity. I mean it. This is about more than me. It's about us, about healing, about making this place ours again. As murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the crowd, Richard felt a swell of possibility wash over him, buoying his heart. Could he really be getting through? Yet, in the back of his mind, a troubling thought took seed. What if the support was only surface deep? What if the anger hadn't dissipated at all? The fire inside him sputtered as he awaited a final verdict from Kevin, hoping against hope that this was the moment where trust could be reborn. In a community filled with scars, could one man's plea be enough? Richard thought, holding on to the fragile glimmer of hope. And just as silence enveloped the room again, an unexpected voice rang out, let us see if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is. Richard's heart dropped. What were the terms this time? Would he lose all that he had just gained? Richard felt like a balloon on the verge of bursting, the air heavy with both anticipation and dread. The challenge hung in the air, and he could sense the crowd leaning forward, hanging on to every word. What does that mean? He asked, trying to mask the tremble in his voice. The speaker stepped forward, a tall woman whose intensity matched the urgency of the moment. If you really want to prove that you've changed, you need to take on a real challenge in this community. Something that shows you're serious about making amends. Richard glanced around the room. Faces full of skepticism softened slightly but still guarded. He saw Claire's eyes bright with encouragement and Jenna's determination gleaming as if she were ready to fight alongside him. But he also noticed the shadows lurking in Kevin's gaze. He needed to do this. What do you have in mind? Richard asked, his heart racing. The woman crossed her arms and said, there's a local park that's been neglected for years. The kids have nowhere to play, and the community is craving a space to come together. If you really want to show us, dive in and lead a project to restore it. Get your hands dirty. Make it happen. Richard felt a jolt of fear mixed with excitement. A park renovation? His mind raced with possibilities: a playground, picnic benches, community gardens. "I'll do it," he declared, the words escaping before he could second-guess himself. "I'll rally the community, get donations, whatever it takes." A collective buzz filled the room, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Kevin crossed his arms tighter, still uncertain, but even he couldn't hide a flicker of hope. "How will you make this work?" The tone was barely accusative, hovering between challenge and curiosity. Richard met Kevin's gaze, steeling himself. "We'll need volunteers. I can reach out to local businesses for supplies. Maybe even hold a fundraiser. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us coming together. This park can be a symbol of our unity. A fresh start." Claire stood up, energizing the crowd around her. "If Richard is willing to take this on, we should stand behind him. We all want this community to thrive." A cheer erupted from the audience, but Richard heard the whispers of doubt still echoing at the edges. Could he really pull this off? Was he ready for the kind of commitment that would require sweat, tears, and maybe bruised egos? Kevin nodded slowly and gestured for quiet. "All right," he said, the firmness in his voice tempered with a hint of vulnerability. "But if this goes south, don't expect us to catch you. You'll need to be accountable." Richard felt the weight of his words land squarely on his shoulders. "I understand," he replied, his voice steady. "And I won't back down. I'll make sure this community sees the results." With that, the crowd began to disperse, energized by the prospect of a new project, but Richard lingered, feeling the energy still pulsing in the air. The whispers of doubt clung to him like shadows, leaving him with a knot in his stomach. He had committed himself to more than just words. He'd thrown himself into the unknown, risking all the trust he had begun to build. Was he ready for the challenges ahead? Would the community come together as he hoped? As he stepped outside, the cool night air washed over him, invigorating yet daunting. Richard took a deep breath, a fresh wave of determination washing through him. It was time to start again, to transform the park and, through that, himself. But just as he reached for his phone to reach out to Jenna and Claire, a chilling thought crept in. What if I fail? The uncertainty settled in his chest, heavy and unyielding. Would this project bring him redemption, or would it seal his fate as the man who couldn't change? And so, with hope and apprehension intertwined, Richard prepared to navigate the road ahead. Little did he know, a surprise awaited him just around the corner, a face from his past that could change everything once again. Richard stood at the threshold of the community center, the cool night air swirling around him like a gentle reminder of the weight he now carried. He had declared his commitment, a promise to heal old wounds and build something beautiful out of the despair that clung to Maplewood like thick fog. But the road ahead was uncharted, fraught with challenges he could only begin to comprehend. As he stepped into the dim light, the townsfolk chatted amongst themselves, debates flaring and laughter bubbling while uncertainty still hummed beneath the surface. Richard could feel every eye on him, mixed expressions ranging from skepticism to curiosity. It was a high-stakes game, and he was determined not to let fear choke the newfound hope pulsing in his veins. "Let us get to work," he shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. The room hushed, and he sensed that magic, that spark of possibility rising around them. "What's our first step?" Jenna asked, a spark of excitement in her eyes. Richard took a deep breath. "We'll need a community meeting to organize volunteers. We should also list local businesses willing to donate. I can lead the charge on social media, spread the word." Just then, Kevin approached, arms still crossed, but his demeanor softened from the confrontation earlier. "I'll help," he offered, surprising everyone. "If you're really gonna do this, let us make sure it's done right." Richard nodded, grateful for the unexpected ally. "Together, we can transform the park into a true gathering place for everyone." As plans flowed between them, Richard felt the worries start to lift. Each voice that joined in breathed life into a vision they had all but lost: children playing, families gathering, laughter echoing where silence had lingered. Hope blossomed anew, bright against the uncertainties that had clouded the town for far too long. Days turned into weeks. The air buzzed with ambition. Friends reunited over dust and sweat, reclamation efforts breathing new life into the park. Richard felt himself embraced by the community in ways he never would have imagined possible. He was no longer an outsider, but a part of a tapestry filled with color and connection. However, lingering doubts danced in the corners of his mind. What if this was all just smoke and mirrors? He couldn't shake the fear that without hard proof of change, he'd be nothing but a disappointment again. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and purple, Richard found a quiet moment to reflect. Nearby, Sarah approached, her smile warm and inviting. "You've done great things here, Richard. It's beautiful to see the dedication everyone brings." He met her gaze and sighed. "But what if it isn't enough? What if I can't prove that I've changed?" "Stop doubting yourself," she replied, her voice steady. "You showed the strength to stand up. Change takes time. Just keep pouring your heart into this." With a nod, he wrapped himself in her encouragement, the deep warmth igniting a flicker of belief within him. The project was more than just bricks and mortar. It was his way of telling the community he cared, that he wanted to be part of something bigger. Days continued unfolding, revealing moments filled with connections old and new. Then one day, as they rallied together to paint benches and plant flowers, a familiar sound drew his attention. "Richard?" A voice called uncertainly from the edge of the park. He turned to see Claire standing with a group of people, her eyes wide with surprise, and behind her, an unexpected trio, his distant family, the ones he hadn't seen in years, back in Maplewood. "Claire, is that?" The pieces fell together in a rush of emotions as Richard stepped cautiously forward. His heart raced, a new layer of complexity entering the fray. "What are you all doing here?" "I wanted to come and see what you've been up to," Claire said, beaming with pride. "We've been talking about helping and wanted to support your efforts firsthand. Plus, some family members heard about the project. They wanted to lend a hand." Richard's mind raced. Could he embrace this family connection while still forging new paths within the community? This means a lot. Really. Together, they plunged into the work, laughter echoing across the park as they painted benches and planted flowers. The feeling of belonging wrapped around Richard like a warm embrace, brightening the shadows that had haunted him for so long. As the days turned into weeks, the park slowly transformed, vibrant and alive. Opening day approached, a festival dedicated to the rebirth of their cherished community space. Anticipation filled the air like electricity, and in those moments, Richard felt a profound change unfolding within himself. He looked around as the sun set, painting everything in rich hues. The chatter of families drew closer, faces reflected joy, warmth, and unity. For the first time, Richard felt he truly belonged. The festival arrived, and the park buzzed with life that felt almost too good to be true. Kids raced about, laughter melded with music, and Richard glanced over at Sarah, who was enveloped in conversations with neighbors. His heart swelled. This was the life he longed for. As the celebration unfolded, Richard climbed up to a small platform, his family and friends gathered below. "Thank you all for being part of this. You opened your hearts, and I can't express how much that means," he began, shadows of doubt dissipating as he spoke. "You've given me a chance to heal a past that had haunted me. Together, we've created a place where our community can thrive." The crowd erupted into applause, and he felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. It was a moment wrapped in acceptance, a mosaic of love and healing. In that instant, Richard realized he wasn't just delivering a speech. He was accepting himself, firmly stepping into the light he had so desperately sought. "That's what it's all about, isn't it?" he concluded, voice steady with newfound strength. "Support, growth, and most importantly, family, whether by blood or by choice. Thank you." With that, he stepped down, a new chapter blossoming on the horizon. He embraced Sarah as the applause swelled, surrounded by a community who believed in him again. They had weathered old storms, faced uncertainties, and now they stood together, a family forged from resilience and love. Richard took a deep breath, inhaling the warm, hope-infused air. It felt like freedom. Together, we'll create a future full of possibilities, he thought, ready for every beautiful challenge that awaited them. Now is the moment that matters, my friends. If this story touched you, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and to show your support. Drop your comments below. I'm dying to hear your raw reactions and feelings about this amazing conclusion. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring transformation. We are building a community together, and it starts with you. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support matters.